Greetings, friends. It's time for another street food road trip. We're staying in Shaanxi this time, but we're heading to uncharted territory with regard to where this program has been. I'm saying we're going somewhere new. Street food. Now, if you're a fan of the show, you probably recognize my friend Sarah. Sarah was my Chinese teacher. She married a Waiboren, and she is a self-proclaimed 吃货, a foodie. She's also from a small town in northern Shanxi, and last year, over Dragon Boat Festival, she invited us and some friends to visit her and her family in Jell Tuan. So in China, when you're from a town this small, and people ask you where you're from, you'll usually reply with the biggest city nearby. So Sarah would normally say she's from Yan'an, which is the biggest city in this general area, but she's actually from a village about a little more than an hour away. It's not far from a very famous bend in the Yellow River, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We took a bus for 4, 5, 6, I don't know how many hours. After 4, it might as well be 50. You can call this region Shanbei, northern Shaanxi, and it's famous for a few things. Lots of terraced agriculture and cave dwellings. Some of us hiked around Sarah's village. We got a good look at the farms. The food in this region is defined by different types of grain. Now in Xi'an, we get a lot of rice and noodles, but in Shanbei, they actually don't eat very much rice. There's wheat, of course, but then there's also millet, buckwheat, and corn, which act as staple grains in the region. Sarah's mom made us a homemade batch of this special kind of noodle. She used a mixture of wheat flour and buckwheat flour for the noodles, and she let us help use this traditional noodle press. Actually, this is kind of a modern, miniature one. An old school one would be giant and make enough noodles for a whole village. She topped the fresh noodles with a pork-based soup, and then whatever spices or pickled vegetables you like, all homemade.
荞面饸饹羊心汤是滋火锅小梗上 ，so 荞面的饸饹，然后羊肉的汤，然后呢，你一辈子都在一起。
Okay.
Yeah, to walk together.
Yes.
I've been with Sarah. I've been married to her for a year and a half, but we met 3 years ago, and part of the way into our relationship, I came here before we were married. Walked into the door, and they just had the first thing that happened was her mom handed me the noodle press. And it's not this noodle press. It was this one where you literally have to twist the noodles out of it. And she handed it to me, and she said, you know, make the noodles.
Homemade Chinese food is nothing like restaurant Chinese food, which is just like in the States or anywhere, I imagine. We eat out a lot because it's cheap and it's pretty good, but homemade cooking is just better. These noodles are filling and they're hearty. 荞面饸饹. Oh, and she also made us this special holiday snack. This is made with sticky millet. What y'all know about sticky millet? Because this is a first for me. It's just like sticky rice in terms of the texture. It'll stick to the roof of your mouth, and it's quite heavy. But I gotta say, I loved these. What a great holiday tradition. Sticky millet! We visited a famous folk artist from Sarah's hometown. He does tapestries about Shanbei people, and he's most famous for these oil paintings. Some of famous Chinese leaders, but most of just everyday people. He meets them, and he has a few conversations to learn about who they are, and then he paints their personality into the portrait. It's pretty cool. After that, Sarah took us to this kind of retreat spot. It's a set of cave houses overlooking a valley. Kind of crazy road to get up there. We spent a lot of time in first gear, but it was worth it. Crazy beautiful. We slept family style on one wide bed that spanned the width of the room. This is called a kang. In Chinese, you call cave houses like this yaodong. They're warm in the winter, they're cool in the summer, and they're just fun. Now the trip up here, I gotta say, was a little... Oh, that's that locust. You hear that? Yeah, that's that locust.
I see him.
You see him?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He's like, bzz, just like how our driver was driving.
Watch out! There's a house and a tree.
Be careful.
Oh, approaching a village. Be careful.
But that's the exact tree.
Oh, it's like you found it.
Yeah.
Well done. This spot hooked us up with a lot of nice food. Liangfen, which is like cold noodles, but it's not really a noodle. It's mildly pickled with some sesame seeds. Also this pickled white carrot that's dried and then like reconstituted. The next day we made zongzi for a Dragon Boat Festival. I've covered that on this show before. Then Sarah took us up to this famous bend in the Yellow River. Why is the Yellow River famous? First of all, it's a symbol of China. It pretty much represents the beginning of Chinese civilization. In mythology, it's looked at as like the mother of China, but also practically speaking, this is the area where Chinese society is most likely to have originated. Some people think they can trace their heritage back to early Yellow River settlements. So it's like life. Different artists have memorialized different parts of the river over China's long history. And this bend is particularly special. It's very near the border between Shaanxi and Shaanxi, the neighboring province. Some of us went wading in the river, ate some watermelon to rehydrate. We had some bomb food in our second hotel too. Sarah is a local, so she knows all the best stuff to order. We had Journey's favorite, mantou, but you call this one huazhuang, and this millet-based porridge with nuts. I think it's ma tang fan. Kind of basic, but I ate like 3 bowls of this. This tofu in tomato sauce, which I would eat all the time if I lived up here. Then there's this stuff called Jell Tuan. It looks like mashed potatoes, but it's just buckwheat stirred up with water and mixed into kind of a dough. It makes like a mush, and then you scoop some up and you dip it in sauce. I know that might sound weird, it's pretty good. There was potatoes and some green stuff mixed together. Also those potato balls I've showed y'all before. They look like meatballs, but they're steamed potato, and you dip them in sauce. Potatoes are huge in Shanbei. You see how different all these dishes are? This is in my same province, but it's a different region. And that's what food is like in China. You travel just a little bit, and they're like, oh no, ours is different. Ours is like this. And it's true. It's true almost everywhere I go in China. Every region seems to have like a unique cuisine. The next morning we hiked down to a preserve site called Huifeng Village. It's up on some high rocks looking out over the Yellow River. There was some great scenery and a decent hike. We pretty much had the whole place to ourselves, which is rare for a holiday weekend. Now, I live in a city. There's obviously lots of great street food in the city, but I tried to visit the Chinese countryside on this show because just like how America has urban and rural parts and so many things in between, China too has a very diverse cultural landscape. In fact, in the next episode, I'll show you some more of that sweet, sweet countryside. We're visiting the Painted Mountains of Jiangye. I'll see you then, street foodies. Street food. Season 10! What do you think of the magic mirror?
It's a puzzle.
That's the mirror. Does it work?
Yeah,
Okay.
but it ain't magic. It looks like cookie.
What do you think of that? Dried tofu.
It's good.
I feel like the flavor's a little different, like the oil or something.
Yes.